What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Lucid. Give you a quick overview of some of the data points, break it down, what's moving it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. Lucid's down 1.26%, 269 the low, 276 the high. And so what's causing all of this, alongside the greater broader market kind of pulling back as well, is because of Fed speakers. So today is more of a Fed day, if you want to call it that. So you had so far �𝗂𝗡 and Powell speak, Bowman and Williams later today, and then as well you're going to have some last minute jitters associated to CPI tomorrow. But both �𝗂𝗡 and Powell said the kind of same thing. So �𝗂𝗡 said that it's kind of best to keep rates as is, just watch some of the data. And then aside from that though, you have Powell saying that we do not need to be in a hurry to adjust policy. So both basically saying the exact same thing. The only thing that �𝗂𝗡 kind of insinuated is that if the economy is strong, you might need to really raise rates. So he kind of alluded to that. No matter what though, both cases not necessarily all that great for the EV sector, which is very sensitive to interest rates. So ideally you were wanting for them to come out and say, hey, yeah, we're going to cut blah blah blah. So it didn't really work out as that. But aside from that though, no actual news from Lucid itself today, no SEC filings. Today is a big day because this is where you can pose questions to management. So my video tomorrow will be going over hopefully the good questions. But I feel like, what's that website that you can actually bet on like almost anything, like Super Bowl, elections, like just how many words Powell says? I can't remember it, but it'd be interesting. Someone should do a bet or pose that on if someone's going to ask about profitability. And I think the last couple of times there's been this individual named Paul. I don't know. I've alluded to maybe he is an employee, because I don't understand how someone could ask that amount of questions and just be so clueless about Lucid. Because I swear all those questions that are ultimately asked, like they must have just woken up from like a coma or something like that, because they just don't make sense whatsoever. But I think that there is going to be a question, is there profitability coming? Like, when do you plan or estimate profitability? There's going to be always those questions, doesn't make sense. So hopefully with that article that came out, I think it was linked to a interview, but Peter mentioned about ESS, energy storage, as well as aviation potentially in the future. I feel like that could be good questions. ESS is supposed to be bringing a lot of money, and Tesla clearly is moving towards that, doing very well. Many other companies are as well. So Lucid definitely needs to move. And at the same time, I feel like you can really ask questions such as this. So this article came out recently. So it shows that Lucid plans for the foreseeable future to do a 20-80 split. So 20% of all the revenue coming from vehicle sales, 80 from licensing. And I think that's good. They also mentioned that they plan on by like 2030-ish that they're going to be doing 1 million vehicles a year. So pretty crazy high expectations from 9,000 in 2024. But needless to say, there's one thing that did come out from a comment. And so as you can kind of see, it says, Cal, I went to one of Lucid stores and had a chat with the salesman there. When I asked about partnership, he said Aston Martin and Genesis. So Genesis is new, and I get it. Sometimes maybe the advisors might just be talking random and very informal, but that is definitely something that Peter has alluded to in previous earnings, is partnerships. So I feel like a good question in regards to partnerships is very much needed this time around. And just generally more details on that second variation of the Gravity, because that's coming out arguably in like, was it 7-8 months from now? So I think that there could be some questions for that, but please don't ask about profitability. Like, that's probably going to be 2027, 2028 at the very best, assuming everything goes according to plan. So that's just my 2 cents, but nonetheless, we'll stay tuned for that. And so I'll be kind of doing a video tomorrow going over my general thoughts on that. Hopefully, like I said, they are good. But aside from all that fun stuff though, shorts right now are increasing 572,000 shares. So breaking the kind of the consecutive trend over the last 5 days, they have returned for whatever reason. Today they are increasing, taking advantage of some of the broader fear right now, but 22.95% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 273.41 million shares overall are being shorted. So again, I think it's kind of anticipated that shorts were going to increase with Powell speaking, as well as even tomorrow, CPI, Thursday PPI, retail sales on Friday. So it's going to be a volatile, fun day. But aside from all that fun stuff though, Lucid for options. So the market's been open roughly an hour, but 84,000 in calls, 62,000 in puts. 49% of all the options being done so far are bearish in nature, and you've seen just a very low dollar value. So even yesterday, 861,717. So I think people are losing somewhat interest in Lucid through options. Maybe they're just waiting for earnings just to say, hey, show me. So yeah, let me know your viewpoint on that. Of the call options that are being purchased, so you do see a consensus for it to be roughly around that $3 range, and then that's also encumbering their earnings. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub 250. So clearly a strong pivot right now. One thing I do want to bring up, this is NIO, but the latest 13Fs, and I kind of do want to bring up a negative piece of news. So as far as this, you do see some institutions increasing their position. On the 7th, BlackRock did insinuate or kind of point out that they did increase 12.68%. So that did occur during Q4. All of these transactions is always delayed, so it is from Q4. So I think that's kind of a good thing. The fact that BlackRock did increase shows that maybe they see more upside with obviously Lucid. But one negative thing I do want to bring up is if we kind of scroll over here, so you can kind of see some entities are actually disclosing that they have short positions. I brought up in the past that new SEC transparency rule is going to really shake up the market, because for 13Fs, anyone shorting, they don't have to voluntarily kind of disclose their position. These entities are obviously doing it on their own free will, but I think in general, them it being optional right now definitely adds a whole level of grayness. But with that new SEC transparency rule, you have to disclose long and short positions. But there was an update recently, I believe a couple weeks ago, and it looks as though the SEC is now allowing temporary exemptions for short selling. So if you are a large hedge fund, for instance, you don't actually have to disclose your short position. So it's kind of a negative. It's good, the fact that we'll have a lot more transparency on a lot of the smaller players, but big names such as BlackRock or whoever else, such as aka Citadel, they don't have to disclose their short positions. So it's good and bad, I guess. A little bit of transparency, but still not to the full extent that they were truly wanting. So let me know your viewpoint on that in the comments below. So I just wanted to kind of share that with you. These are all the transactions occurring so far on the secondary market above $100,000. So far, no buying, just 4 sells, unfortunately. But as far as right now, with that $2.76, it is trading between these 2 points, so the pivot and this S1. So $2.83 is going to be that next strong target / resistance. 268 is going to be that next strong support, and that's kind of what it did bounce off of for today. So the low is right now $2.69. So we do know going forward that this is a very strong support. But aside from all of that, looking on the actual chart, so with it at 276 right now, it is below that 50-day moving average. And luckily enough, in the past, it's actually only momentarily broken below that. So $2.78 will be a absolute key point to really watch for in the short term. So right now it's below the ALMA. And in fact, it's actually below all of the key pivotal moving averages. Looking on stochastic RSI, you see it rather neutral. You have bearish deviation though, so orange line above the blue. So a little bit of consolidation might be anticipated, but definitely in the short term, watch for it to close above that 278. If not, hypothetically, you could see a lot more volatility, more so for the downside. But we also do have CPI, like I said, coming out, PPI, so that's going to add a whole new level of volatility as well. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. I know I kind of talked on quite a lot of things. So the SEC transparency rule, you also have shorts increasing, you have Q&A questions being opened up later today. So it's going to be a fun ride. So let me know your thoughts. Is there any potential questions that you would want to ask Lucid, or that you are going to pose questions? And the reason why this is very important day one is because almost 100% of all the times that they've ever done this, all the questions posed on day one and that are kind of in the top 5 or whatever, they're always asked. So very rarely do you ever have one that's submitted a week after, 2 weeks after, that actually does get asked. So let me know your thoughts. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon where I give buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto. Many of them have been absolutely on point and bangers. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.